Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you. The Morning Majority, 630.
WMAL.
7:37 on the Morning Majority. Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, but Brian Neiman taking some time off this week, a well-deserved vacation time. We are joined now, and very happy to have him with us here this morning, the chairman of the Republican Party, Reince Priebus. Mr. Priebus, thank you very much for joining us here.
Hey, good morning. Glad to be on the show.
Well, let's get right down to brass tacks. Gee, I wonder what we should ask him. Oh, yeah, let's ask him about this debt deal. What do you think about the deal that has been cut, and how does it play out for Republicans in your mind?
Well, I mean, obviously we're all still learning some of the specifics, but I think as far as the Republicans are concerned, I mean, 6 months ago we were talking about the president wanting a blank check, and a month ago we were talking about the president demanding that we increase taxes on everybody in this country in order to balance this economy that he's driven into the ditch. And now what we're finding out is that, quite frankly, we're cutting spending at an equal or greater amount to the debt increase, which is exactly where the Republicans said that they would only go. So to me it looks like John Boehner and Mitch McConnell did a pretty good job here of putting together at least a start of a final package. We'll see how it plays out today. It'll probably be a pretty interesting couple days.
I think it'll be a very interesting couple of days. But interestingly enough, I mean, even though many of us, including me and Mary Catherine, I think I'll speak for her here, think that this was sort of a victory for the Tea Party, surprisingly, many members of the Tea Party are now saying they may not be able to vote for the deal. What would you say to them?
Well, I mean, I don't know specifically how that piece is going to play out, but I mean, I would say that, I think there's going to be some people on both sides of the aisle that aren't going to be happy. But I do think that it was generally accepted that the only way that Republicans would agree to any debt limit increases if we had cuts at an equal or greater amount. And I don't think it's a perfect deal. Certainly both sides are saying that. But if you're being objective and honest about it, you'd have to say the Republicans did pretty well here.
Well, as a guy whose job it is to worry about getting Republicans elected all over the country,
yes,
and your early read on this deal, how do you feel about how that plays with regular Americans? A lot of them, I mean, despite many of the doomsday scenarios laid before them, say we shouldn't even raise the debt ceiling. It just allows them to spend more money. How does this play out there?
Well, I mean, I think the debt limit's probably going to be increased, and I think that there was something that was hard to avoid. And knowing that truth and reality, I think it was up to us and the Republicans to start talking about the reason why we were ever even in this position to begin with. I mean, the president, Mary Catherine, wanted to take us on every rabbit trail that there possibly was out there, except for dealing with the problem of spending, which is why why you and I are even talking about this issue. I think that that's an issue that resonates at kitchen tables across the country, and I think that as long as we can move forward and make sure that these spending cuts are real cuts and not fake cuts, as Paul Ryan so eloquently laid out the other day, I think that it will resonate with the American people. I also think that this commission that needs to look at this other $1.8 trillion has to make sure that these are real cuts as well. I think it's going to be incumbent on Republicans and Tea Party Republicans and every kind of Republican in between to make sure that this is real and not another Washington snow job. And so I think that's part of our job here at the RNC, and I'm sure you're going to be out there talking about it as well.
I noticed that the Dow futures are up 166 points about 90 minutes before the market opened. So the market likes the news, apparently. But what do you say to, and you no doubt know this, you guys are always running polls in the field about where the American people are. You want to know who's up, who's down, and there is a growing sense out there that beyond the Washington Beltway, many people say, I am just absolutely had it up to here with all of the squabbling and the fighting and the inability of Washington to get business done.
Right.
And they say a pox on everybody's health. Are you worried about that?
Well, I mean, if I was Obama, I'd be pretty worried about that because he's got the most to lose in this election, and he's the incumbent, and he's at the top, and the fish rots at the head. And as far as I'm concerned, this president has made everything worse, and the numbers bear that out. And I think the American people, while I don't disagree with your general premise, Brian. I think that if you'd also peel back the next layer there and look at the polling and what the American people are saying about this president, he's a person that people at this point don't trust. He's a person whose rhetoric doesn't match the reality. And I think as long as hope isn't hiring in America, people are going to look at this president as a good speech maker, but a guy who's lousy at following through on promises.
Yeah, it sounds like in a recent Gallup survey, I think it just came out, that Obama's at a Bush second term-esque 40% right now. Yep. How does that make you feel about going up against him?
Well, I mean, it makes me feel like obviously we have a real good opportunity here as long as we do the things that this party's all about, which is cutting spending, economic freedom, making sure that we focus in on creating jobs, and then pointing the differences between what this president says and what he does. I feel good, and I feel good about keeping the House. Certainly the Senate looks very good, especially given the fact that we have so many opportunities in non-battleground states that are pure red the way they are already. I feel great about that. I think the top of the ticket's going to be tough for the Democrats, and in districts where we haven't won in a while, or in blue dog districts, I feel great about winning those seats, because as long as the president's on the ticket, which I know he'll be, and as long as his polling is at 40% or 45%, it is just naturally, from any sort of political observer standpoint, it's looking good for us. I
need a very, very quick answer on this. Are you okay on fundraising? I know you had a lot of debt that you had to take care of.
Yeah, we're doing great. We've got the train back on the rails here, and it's going to be a slow climb out. But, I mean, if you look at the numbers, we're netting a lot of money. We're paying down our debt. We're putting cash on hand. And I think most importantly, we've become functional and operational again.
Reince Priebus, the chairman of the Republican Party, it is so good to have you here. We hope you'll come back.
You bet. Happy to